Hello everyone, welcome to the session of Budget Talk. As we know, government is planning to introduce GST from the next quarter. So we were expecting that no such amendments in indirect taxation will take place in this budget. And that happens, no major amendments came, but still 3 or 4 amendments came in service tax. To analyze these amendments, we have a special guest, Mr. S.S. Gupta with us. He's a chartered accountant and author of book on service tax, How to Meet Obligation, which is very widely used. He also provides guest lectures in various institutions and seminars. Hello sir, welcome to the budget session talk.
Thank you.
So sir, how do you rate this amendment?
I think the budget is good in a sense that after demonetization, we were expecting a lot of relief, and that he has given the form of income tax relief to the small persons. And he has made a lot of, particularly in black money, the government is hell-bent upon it. And the political one, the 20,000 rupees is brought down the limit to 2,000. And that bond which is going to be issued by Reserve Bank of India, and the bond money which will come to the political parties, that will bring transparency in the entire system of raising money by these political parties. With that, I think there are a lot of other things like infrastructure and other things which will definitely boost the economy. The other trend which has started in more particularly in service tax and this, that whatever major changes which he wanted to make is already made in November and January. So I was also not expecting major change to come in January. In fact, 2 notifications have come on 30th of January itself. And that means whatever the government, earlier trend was that anything is to be made, changes to be made, must come in the budget only. But now that seems to have changed.
This is a new trend.
This is a new trend which has come up. And that is right also. And as you rightly said, that GST is expected by 1st July. So there is no major amendment which is expected. But he has made few of them. And retrospective amendments are also made in these.
One of them is insertion of 3 new exemptions in the mega exemption list. So why are these exemptions required?
See, what happens is when they draft the notification, the implication of that is known only when you actually operationalize it. Now I'll tell you first exemption. He has removed the word residential. These IIMs provide a lot of management services. I mean, in the sense courses and certificates. Now, many people come and stay in the IIM campus. But there can be people living in Ahmedabad only, which says, I don't want to stay in that. There was the word residential in that notification.
Was creating some hurdle.
Yes. So now when you provide residential, one can strictly interpret that those who stay there, they will only get exemption. Others will not get the exemption. So therefore the word residential has been now deleted in this. This is the first one of them.
But now it is not required to be a residential in that area.
Yes, that is this. Because you are giving the exemption to a course, not to a person where he is staying. That's the spirit. When you are giving an exemption, you are giving exemption to a services which is being provided. And service is not that residential service. The person comes for a particular course which is there. So therefore, that is the correct thing. Secondly, new thing which the government is trying is, in each state, there are a lot of airports which are dormant today. And a lot of religious places. Like I am from Maharashtra, we have in Bombay to Shirdi. Today when you go, it's 5 hours, it takes 6 hours, it takes practically whole day goes when you come back. Now there's an airport there. If you go by flight, you can come back in 4 or 5 hours, return back. But any person who's going to start that may get a crowd, may not get a crowd. And he can't make it 10,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees fare also, because nobody will come. By bus you can go and 500 rupees and 10,000 rupees. Why will you pay 10,000?
Nobody wants to spend that much.
Yeah, so therefore government now says we will give you regional connectivity, and we will first year we will fund you. We call it viability gap fund and this.
Okay.
On that there will be no service tax. That's the second exemption which is given on this thing. Then when the operation starts, the department also keep on finding new persons who has not paid service tax. There is one Army Navy fund which is providing life insurance services to members of Army, Navy and Air Force. Now that is basically a welfare activity. But that also the department started charging service tax to them. That amendment, that notification has also come up in this thing. So when your operation comes, that time you find a lot of changes needs to be made. Those changes are made in this thing.
One change came in works contract valuation. It is a very debatable issue in valuation of works contract. How this amendment is clarification will impact?
Yeah. What happens now, you see, a builder, when he sells the property to a buyer in say Delhi, you make a one agreement with the builder that you bought a property. In southern states, Karnataka, Tamil, Kerala, builder makes two agreements. One for sale of undivided share of land and second one for construction. Now whether the construction value of the construction service mentioned in the agreement is correct or there have been mismatch or undervaluation, overvaluation of each property, that was a major of dispute in southern side. Both services provided by builder and the builder in other states and southern state is same. There is no difference. But basically because they were making a two agreement, everybody was saying that you charge me service tax on the construction contract value and not on the land because land is not to be included. Now what he has done is right from 2010, from the day when the residential property brought into the tax net, he has amended the provision and he has brought that provision in par with the other builders, which means there can be no difference. Even if you are in the southern state, you make two agreement, this is all right. You make two agreement, but you include the value of entire those two agreement and pay the service tax on 25% or 30%. Same thing happens in Delhi and other states also. So I think that's a good move because differentiating within the same country the nature of taxes and the quantum of taxes creates an issue, which is corrected by bringing in the works contract services. There's no major problem. There's a lot of other show cause notices pending which should get resolved by this amendment. Let us see on that.
And so one more thing, we have noticed that in the past few months, government made some services out of negative list in section 66D and bring it into the mega exemption 25/2012. What is the reason? This time also they exclude alcoholic liquor services from negative list and bring it into the mega exemption. Why they are doing so?
Actually what happens, the negative list services are called non-taxable services and the exemption services are called exempted services. It has a SANVAT credit issue on that basis. And that's the only reason why it is being done. And the second thing is the exemption the government can remove anytime. But if you want to amend negative list, then you have to go to parliament and get it amended. So now with the exemption, possibly he'll bring it, if one has to make an amendment in the exemption, then the legislation can, the CBC can himself issue a notification and do it on that basis. That's the only reason. Otherwise, as you rightly said, as of now, there's no impact on the payment of service tax on that basis. But in any event, on GST, whether it's a manufacturer or not, everybody is going to pay service tax on all job charges on that happens. So let us see when the actual April comes, is he going to remove that notification and ask everybody to pay so that you start getting into line of making a payment of service tax. Let us see this.
And sir, one last question that must be the question of the decade. What is the fate of GST?
I think GST will be, now that as in the speech also Finance Minister has said that all the issues have been cleared and now the legislation as drafted as model GST law has been sent to the various state legislation and they have their own system of sending it to law ministry and then receiving back and cabinet approval and all that. So that I think they will commit. Now there is a February 18, there is again GST council meeting.
10th meeting.
10th meeting is there and we hope that on that the law will be cleared and then it will go to the respective legislation for approval. One expects, he has made a comment that after up to March we will be thoroughly ready with the legislation. And 1st April onwards we will go to the industry for the purpose of explaining them.
So we can expect implementation of GST from 1st of July.
I think that is what is expected. Let us see what happens in that time. In any event, it has to come before 18 September. So July seems to be the better bet than the in between the month and all that thing. Because every quarter also many people closes their books of account on that basis.
Okay, thank you so much for your precious time.
Thank you. Thank you.